What's up, everyone? It's Cannan, and welcome back to another video. And today's video is all about the villains of RWBY. Now, I know it was kind of a thing for everyone to be doing tier lists a few months ago, and me and Jess just never got around to doing them. And I was like, you know what? I want to put out some newer stuff besides Let's Plays and all that. And Jess is still working on stuff, so she wasn't available to do this with me. So I was like, you know what? I'll do a simple tier list. And I put it up on Twitter, and apparently everyone was like, yeah, do some tier lists. So the first one I plan to do is the villains. Now, I love a good villain. Usually for me, if a story does not have a good villain, I kind of tune out of it. And it's always exciting in long-running series like RWBY and other anime where it's like, who's going to be the next villain? You know, who's the next one that they're going to go up against, you know, while the big bad is looming elsewhere. So the categories I came up with is the top one is you love to hate them. Like, these are the top villains that you hate so much because you love them as villains. Like, they do their job as a villain. They come off as just like the scum of the world, and you cannot wait for them to be taken out. And then you have just simple great villains. Then you have my not a villain category, which pretty much is the antagonists. They're not villains, they are really antagonists. Then you have the ones that are just so-so. Then you have the ones that we really just saw once. And then you have the redeemed class, because these villains they're no longer heels, they turned face. So I'm going to start from the redeemed and work my way up. That way it's a little bit, you know, oh, who's going to hit that top category. So let's get into this. So I'm sure everyone knows who is going to be in the redeemed column. The first one is, of course, Emerald. Now, I think everyone was seeing this coming. Like, it's kind of been teased for a while that Emerald may very well switch sides, because out of everyone on the villain side, Emerald has kind of shown the most regret and fear, and where, like, she has shown many times that she is terrified of Salem. There's been some evidence that she's terrified of Tyrion. It kind of seemed like Mercury was the only one really keeping her around, and maybe Hazel to some extent. And that's kind of funny how things in Volume 8 started happening. You know, Mercury goes off, and then, everything with Hazel, and that's really what led to her finally switching sides. We've still not seen what's going to happen next time her and Cinder see each other, but I'm really wondering what they're going to do there. So yeah, I'm very glad Emerald is now on the side of the good guys. Next is, of course, Hazel. Sadly, Hazel is no longer with us, so we really didn't get to see any other kind of fallout of him turning on Salem. But once again, it was kind of hinted that something was going to go on with Hazel, because Salem was kind of manipulating him. We still don't know 100% all of the story with his sister. Maybe we will learn it at some point. Maybe not, since Hazel's now gone. But pretty much him just seeing Jen showed that Oscar/Ozpin had told him more truth than Salem had. And I mean, that's really all he needed to see. And I mean, it was great. I think a lot of people liked Hazel because, unlike the other villains, he had an honor code. He didn't want to needlessly kill if you didn't have to. So I put him in the redeemed because he did. In the end, he redeemed himself. He really did. Really would have liked to have seen him go a little bit more on the other side, or maybe he wouldn't have joined the others. Maybe he just would have just went on his own. Who knows? But it is great to see that what we all thought was more than likely going to happen. And it kind of did it kind of does follow the Hansel and Gretel kind of story. So really was happy to see that come full circle. Next one is, of course, Ilia. Now, I never really considered Ilia a villain. She definitely was an antagonist, but she was being led down the wrong road. She felt like she didn't have a choice on what else to do. Exactly what she said in the show. I don't know what else to do. But thankfully, because of Blake and Blake forgiving her, finding that power in forgiveness, she's in a very much better place. She is on the side of the good guys, even though we saw her one little clip of her in Volume 8. I do think we will see Ilia again, maybe sooner rather than later. But, I think out of a lot of the newer characters that have been introduced since Volume 4, Ilia is definitely one of my favorite characters. So, I'm very interested to see if they do anything else with her. So now, going to the one-off category, the only one that's in here that counts as this is Talk. And tell you the truth, I love her design. I thought her semblance was very interesting. But sadly, we only got to see her in a flashback. She is dead. Maria killed her, but she was skilled enough that she took Maria's eyes. So it's not like she was out of her league fighting Maria. But yeah, it is kind of sad that, like I said, she was only meant to be a one-off. She was pretty much to show us how Maria lost her eyes, and it was kind of hinted that yes, she was working for Salem when she was hunting Maria. But yeah, great design, interesting semblance, interesting fighting style. She was definitely based off the crocodile from Peter Pan. But yeah, we just didn't get to see much more of her. All right, so the so-so category. First is Cordovan, and that's mostly because it's almost like the kind of role she played, she wasn't exactly a villain, and she wasn't exactly an antagonist. She was kind of a comedy act, really. Like, I think I found her more amusing than anything else. Yeah, she said some stuff that could be interpreted as racist, and like, she did have that kind of Atlas way of thinking, but at the end of the day, she may not be a 100% virtuous person, but she's not a bad guy. Like, she kind of got redeemed in one episode, about, helping Team RWBY and the others fight off the Grim, vowing that, she was there to protect the people of Argus, and she let Team RWBY and the others go. So it's kind of like almost in that gray area. Like, she was kind of an antagonist, but really she was kind of just a roadblock in a way. So yeah, that's really all I can really say on Cordovan. Next for the so-so is Lionheart, and it's mostly because I just kind of found him kind of a lame duck in a way. Yeah, he did some awful things. He betrayed Osmond. He betrayed the huntsmen and huntresses and led them to their death, but it's all because he was a coward. He was just a sniveling coward, and a lot of people say he died a coward's death. And he's not that very high on my list usually. So, and usually when I think of villains, I don't think of Lionheart, really. Now, this next one in the so-so category is kind of going to be controversial, and that's going to be Mercury. And that's really because since Volume 3, they've really not done much with him. We've kind of built his character a little bit, and we've also kind of hinted that he may turn as well. But like the stuff he done in Volume 3, yeah, he helped with the fall of Beacon, but he wasn't really evil about it. He was kind of a dick about it, That's about it. But ever since Volume 3, well, he did a little bit in Volume 5, but he doesn't come off as a villain. He just comes off as kind of a jerk in a lot of ways. Hopefully he gets a bit more screen time in the Vacuo arc, which I'm guessing he would because he's there with Tyrion. But yeah, it's just like, where are we going with him, you know? So, you know, we'll just have to see. So next, not a villain, which is pretty much the antagonist category. First one is Raven. So she did kind of side herself with Cinder in Volume 5? Yes, but she had her own she had her own motives. And like, we saw a glimpse of the real Raven when she was talking to Yang before she left, and I do think by the end of her story we'll get more of, maybe there's more to Raven's story than we know. Maybe there's more to her leaving Yang than just she ran from Salem. So who knows? Like, Raven's not done. Who knows when we'll see her again? But I think there's more there. So I don't consider her a villain. I consider her an antagonist. Is she a good person? No. She has done awful things. But is she evil? No. She was kind of a roadblock in a way. Mostly for Yang. But yeah, she's more involved in Yang's story than anything else. So we got to see. We're going to have to see how things progress. Next is Vernal, because she was just more or less just another roadblock. She was kind of like, not really a roadblock, but she was just an underling in a way. She was, and if anything, she was really just a little bit of an antagonist toward Weiss. She was a little antagonistic to her. But that's about it. She wasn't an evil person. She was kind of like Mercury. She was kind of just a jerk about it. And another one that I am going to put in the antagonist column is Neo. Has Neo done awful things? Yes, she has. But I still don't consider her evil. She's kind of an anti-hero. It's like Jess has said several times. She's kind of like RWBY's version of Harley Quinn. Has Harley Quinn killed people? Yes. But is she evil? No. Harley Quinn has actually saved people before. She's helped Batman and the heroes save the world before, and then went back to her old ways. So I'm very interested to see what happens in Volume 9 with Neo also falling into the void with Team RWBY and John. Seeing how that goes, because I don't know if Neo will like switch sides. Maybe a temporary alliance. I don't know. Unless Blake kills her, which I doubt's going to happen. But yeah, I've always considered her just an anti-hero in a way. A little bit of an antagonist. Not a good person, but I wouldn't say she's fully evil either. Like, she is definitely being driven right now for vengeance for Roman, but now she's going to be wanting to go after Cinder as well. So that could very well lead, if you can see, like, yeah, she's went after the heroes, but now she's going to be going after one of the villains. So yeah, she's in that very gray area. She is pretty much in the anti-hero category. So we'll see how that goes. Okay, so for great villain, I'm going to start with Roman. Roman was a great villain for the beginning of the series. He, like, for Team RWBY to still be at Beacon, still learning the ropes, being beginners in a sense, he was a great beginning villain because he was pretty much the Joker for Team RWBY's Batman at that time, because he's kind of a street thug. He's a criminal. He's not some super villain. The Joker is a super villain, but you guys know what I mean. He's like the basic arch nemesis for a starting hero, because I don't think we ever learned if he had a semblance or not. He's just a normal guy in a way. He's just a thief. So, but he was great. His personality, his character, that's why a lot of people still love him to this day. And that's why a lot of people were heartbroken that he was killed off, that he just made a really good stereotypical villain, and that's why he is still loved to this day. So yeah, I consider Roman a great villain. Next, we are going to put Watts. Watts was the perfect evil genius in a way. Like, I always kind of had a feeling that Atlas would be where he ended, which it was. And I mean, it was kind of an anticlimactic way how they dealt with him, but he wasn't the main focus. But but like I said, he was just a great evil genius type character. He would kill anybody to get what he wanted. And like in Volume 7, he proved a pretty good diabolical villain. Like, he'd done a lot of awful things in Volume 7. Plus, Chris Sabat's voice acting of him was just perfect. Chris Sabat is great at being more heroic characters like Vegeta or Piccolo, but man, he's great at being a villain. He is so great at being a villain. So yeah, Watts to me is definitely one of the better villains in the great villain category that the series has had. Now we're going to put Tyrion. Whereas Watts is a great evil genius, Tyrion is a great psychotic evil person. At some point, I am going to do a psychological profile on Tyrion, because he is, the fact that, we got the confirmation in Volume 7 that he is a well-known serial killer fits. He fits so many profiles of a serial killer. And for any of you guys that don't know, I have my degree in psychology, for behavioral health. So at one point I wanted to go and, interview people like this, trying to help, learn more about these people, and like if crimes were committed and stuff like that. Pretty much a forensic psychologist. And these kind of characters are fascinating, because once you learn more about them, you're like, okay, so what went wrong? What went wrong up here to cause this kind of behavior? I kind of hope we get a little bit more of backstory on Tyrion, just so we can put those pieces together. But yeah, as far as psychotic goes, he is an amazing villain. Next, I'm going to put Ironwood. If things had not went as bad as things did, I might consider him just putting him in the antagonist category, but he fit the perfect, like, dictator villain. Like, and it's so, like, it's kind of heartbreaking, because originally you could tell Ironwood so badly really did want to do the right thing. But his paranoia with his semblance, it drove him off the deep end, to the point where he was going to commit genocide. He was willing to pretty much kill all of Mantle just to make RWBY and them work with him. And like I said in our analysis and our reaction, he was pretty much being the playground bully, saying, if you don't play with me, I'm going to break your new toy, So it fits with his semblance, but, that with paranoia and anxiety and fear, it was too much for him. He cracked. He lost sight of who he really was. And it's a heartbreaking story on one end, but it's almost like you kind of saw it coming, But yeah, I'll always consider him one of the better villains of the show. And then the last one in the great villain, I am going to put Salem. And mostly I'm putting her here because there's not a whole lot of people that actually fully hate Salem. Like, ever since we learned her backstory, she's kind of gotten a bit of sympathy. Like, people understand what she's doing. Even though she's killing a lot of people, it's like, okay, this is bad. It's unforgivable. We're not forgiving her at all for what she's done, but I kind of see why she's mad at the world, and mad at the gods. So that's why I don't put her in You Love to Hate Them, because there's a lot of people that don't hate Salem. And yes, there are flaws, her sitting around not doing much for most of the series, but that's kind of big bad nature. They just sit around and expect their underlings to get the job done for them, and then when the underlings fail, they step in, and that's what happened. Atlas and Mantle are pretty much wiped off the face of Remnant. So it's interesting to see what she's going to do now. Is she going to go to Vacuo herself, or will she go back to the castle and just leave it to Cinder or Tyrion and Mercury? Who knows? It's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. All right, so I'm guessing you guys can already see who makes the you love to hate them category. First, we're going to start off with Jacques. Is he as big of a villain as, say, Ironwood and Salem? No, but let's face it, the RWBY fandom hated this guy. Like, everybody wanted him to either just lose everything, and there was some who pretty much couldn't wait for him to die. I'm still shocked at how they did kill him. But you know, in Volume 7, when Weiss had him arrested, everybody popped that day. That was one of the biggest highlights of Volume 7, was him finally getting his comeuppance. But you know, a terrible man, very abusive to his family, his wife, probably everyone that worked for him. Definitely racist. But you know, really, I'll credit it to the voice actor once again. Jason Douglas did such an amazing job as Jacques, because no one else could have portrayed him the way he did. You know, on one hand, Jason voices characters that everyone loves, like Beerus and Dragon Ball, and then he's done characters like Jacques, who people just absolutely hated. And that's a great villain. Someone you hate so much, and you can't wait until they get what's coming to them. When they do, it's so satisfying, to the point where it's almost like, I kind of miss them because I got used to despising them. Now I've got to find another character to despise. Next is Cinder. Cinder is very weird because a lot of people used to hate her because no one knew what her real goal was. We knew she wanted the maiden powers, but why? What was driving her? And that was a big criticism for many years because RWBY just wasn't telling us. Finally, in Volume 8, we got that answer. We saw her backstory. It was pretty much Cinderella 101. And for the first time ever, the fandom, they didn't excuse for what she has done, but they sympathized with her. For once, we were like, oh my gosh, I feel sorry for Cinder. I did. In our analysis, I was like just going off on the stepmother and the stepsisters. Like when they ate the strawberry in front of her, I was like, I hope that strawberry is sour. And like I went off in that analysis. But then the end of Volume 8 happens and she causes so much destruction. She's pretty much the reason for Penny's death. She's the reason for Team RWBY's death. If, you know, as far as they're all concerned, Team RWBY is dead, but we, the fans, know that they aren't. And that, you know, she's hated again, but it's for all the right reasons. She is really becoming a bigger villain than Salem, because she's even lying to Salem. Does Salem know? We don't know yet. There's a good chance she does know that Cinder is lying to her. But I have to say, RWBY has my applause for the way they've been writing Cinder. She's coming off as probably one of the better villains in the series, because people love to hate her. And of course, there's still Cinder fans. There's no problem in being a fan of Cinder. You know, a lot of people love her design, love her character, love her story. They love Jessica Nigri, who voices her, and she does an amazing job as Cinder. And, you know, that's why she's on one of my top lists. I've always liked Cinder because she's a great villain. That's all I can really say. And last but not least, we have got to put Goat Boy. Adam Taurus himself. Boy, when he went down, it was one of the toughest times to be a RWBY fan because of all the controversy and all that, but I'm not going to get into that. Adam is a great villain because it's pretty much the same as Jacques and Cinder. You love to hate him. You could not wait for him to get taken out. He made everyone mad with his actions, and it's just, you know, it was like even though we only knew her for a few minutes, when he killed Sienna, people were mad because people wanted to know what kind of character Sienna was going to be. Me included. I loved Sienna's design. The fact that they got Monica Rial to voice her, you know, they spent a lot on that, only to use her for a few minutes. It was like, what? And of course, a lot of us who were into the story, we didn't blame RWBY for that originally. We blamed Adam because he's the one who killed her. And, you know, for what he did to Blake, what he did to Yang, what he was trying to get Ilia to do. He was the one behind the attempted assassination on Blake's parents. The guy was diabolical, abusive, both mentally and physically. He, so far, is just the definition of the villain you hate, but you also like him because he's a great villain. Cannot wait to see what else RWBY has in store, what other villains that they introduce. Hopefully we get some new ones in the Vacuo arc, but so far no one has pissed me off as much as Adam did. So that's my list of the top villains in RWBY. Hope you all enjoyed it. Please remember, this is just my opinion. This is just for fun. If your favorite didn't make the top list, hey, that is okay. Let me know in the comments who your favorite villain is in RWBY. As always, guys, this is Cannan. Me and Jess love you all very, very much. Stay safe out there. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you in the next one. See ya.